Hello, this is Organization with Olu, and today we're going to talk about the LISA. So stick around. I think you're going to like what I've got for you. Right now, what I'm going to do is share my screen. Okay, we're going to go straight into what the LISA actually is. And before we start, very quickly, I used to be a independent financial advisor. I'm not anymore. This is just financial education. It's not a recommendation to buy anything. Okay, you must do your due diligence. You must do your research. Okay, so let's start. Well, a lifetime ISA, and that's what LISA means: lifetime individual savings account. Okay, it started in 2017, and the idea that the government had in their mind was it was aimed at helping younger people from 18 to 39 to buy their first home. Okay, so you must do it before your 40th birthday, between 18 and 39 to buy your first home. Okay, and then you can benefit from this. Now let's talk about. But actually, I should add to this point. To be honest with you, it's really for buying a house. Okay. However, you could use it for savings or a retirement plan. Okay. The key facts of a LISA. The most important thing is that it's totally tax free. Guys, it's the only investment in the UK that is totally tax free. Not even a pension is totally tax free because you only get 25% as a lump sum tax free. ISAs are the only investment that is totally tax free. And we're talking about not just your contributions, but also whatever profits you make, it's tax free. So you need to bear that in mind in terms of when you're trying to choose investments, you must always have ISA at the very top. Okay. So let's talk about what actually happens here. So for every £4 you contribute, the government will pay £1. So every time you pay £4, the government will pay £1. Okay. The government will pay up to a maximum of £1,000 per year. You're tied to paying up to 4,000. You can pay up to 4,000. The government will pay up to an additional 1,000. So therefore, you have £5,000 going into your account. If you can afford to pay the maximum, which is £4,000, the government will pay 25% of it. So every £4 you pay, the government will pay £1. Okay. So in total, you can end up having £5,000 in your account, even though you only paid 4,000. Okay. So I hope you've understood that. Right. Next thing, you can pay up to we talked about paying up to a maximum of £4,000 a year. So you can have your LISA as a cash ISA or hold it in stocks and shares. And very, very quickly, because we're going to talk about this in the next video. But holding it as a cash ISA is simply like having a savings plan, and you get a little bit of interest. Right now, the interest rates are awful. I think the highest I saw was about 0.6. So you get that into on top of whatever you've paid, and that's what you get. So you get a very small interest on top of what you pay. That's a cash ISA. In terms of stocks and shares, it means you invest in stocks and shares. Again, I'm going to go into that in a lot more detail. Yes, you can make a lot more money in stocks and shares. However, there are risks attached, and I'm going to make sure you are fully aware of that. Okay, so that's what we'll do in the next video. But those are the options you have. The government top up will be paid until you are before 50. Okay, you'll be paid up to the time you are 49. So be very, very careful, because I have to change this now, because it's not till you're 50. If you're 50, the top up stops. So it's really, really important that you understand that. It has to be before your 50th birthday. Okay. So the top up will stop as soon as it's a bit like Cinderella. As soon as the clock strikes and you're 50, there's no more top up. It stops. So it will pay the money up to the time you're 50. As soon as the bell hits, as soon as the 12 midnight happens and you're 50, that's the end of it. Okay, so anything you do, you must do it in good time, because as soon as you're 50, everything stops. Okay, so from 18 to the time you're up to 50, and that's when you benefit from the allowance, government allowance. If you're 18 and you pay £4,000 every single year up to the time you're 50, you would have received £32,000, because remember, for every year you pay 4,000, the government will pay an additional £1,000, a top of £1,000. So between 18 and 50, you've got pretty much 32 years, and that means you would have earned £25,000. But really, to be honest with you, you probably won't earn that because you're probably doing it to buy a house. But even if it's a few years, you still would have earned, 25% of whatever you put in is still worth having. Okay, it's still worth considering, definitely. Okay, so you can withdraw it at any time between 18 and before you turn 50. Very important, provided it goes towards a mortgage for a house, subject to you being a first-time home buyer. These rules are quite strict, so you have to bear in mind that you have to follow them. So you have to be a first-time home buyer. The house must not be more than 450,000, and you must be getting a mortgage. So you cannot just take the money and say you're going to pay for a house cash down. You won't qualify. You have to have a mortgage. The house has to be no more than £450,000. That's the maximum. And you must be a first-time home buyer. Okay, very, very strict rules which you must follow. If you want to withdraw your money other than for buying a house before you're 60, you have to pay a 25% penalty, okay, which could mean that you could easily receive back less than you've put in. So you have to be very, very clear as to why you're doing this, okay? Because if you do not buy a house before you're 50, between the ages of 18 and 50, then as soon as you hit 50, it automatically stops, and then you cannot withdraw the money until you're 60. Okay, you cannot withdraw the money until you're 60. So 50, it stops, and you can't take it you can't take it tax-free until you're 60. So you have a 10-year gap where you have to leave the money there. So it's a little bit bizarre if you think about it, but the money literally gets trapped there. You still earn interest, but you still got to pay charges. You cannot take the money out. If you do take the money out, you're going to be slapped with the 25% charge. And you can imagine that could be quite a lot. That could be a few thousands. So you really got to think about how you're going to do this. Okay, so when you're 50, top-ups from the government will stop, which I've said to you, okay? So you have to make sure any plan you have, if you're buying a house very late, you have to make sure you've got everything sorted out before the clock strikes and you're 50, because once you're 50, it's just going to stop, okay? However, if you don't want to pay the 25% charge, you have to leave it until you're 60. We've talked about that, okay? So anything you do, you have to really be doing it between 18 and before you're 50, because once you're 50, the money, and you have to emphasize that the money will stay there for another 10 years until you're 60, and then you can draw it tax-free, okay? So you need to really plan as to how you're going to do this. Okay, and bear in mind, when you have your money's left there, you still got to pay charges. Even though you're getting a bit of interest, you're still paying charges, and you're not able to top up. So it's slightly a bizarre situation, really. Okay, at 60, if you're not using the money to buy a house, you can withdraw it tax-free. We've talked about that. At 60, you can withdraw the money tax-free. So, but realistically, I just think it's an investment you need to do if you want to buy a house. Okay, you can have a LISA with a traditional ISA. Now, what this simply means that you can pay up to £4,000, but as an ISA, you can actually pay up to 20,000 in traditional ISAs. So what will happen if you pay your £4,000, you've got your 4,000 allowance in your LISA, you can have another 16,000 allowance in a traditional ISA, which is tax-free, and which probably allows you the flexibility. Well, it will definitely give you a lot more flexibility in terms of drawing it out, depending on what the institution, you might have to give notice or whatever, but you'll be able to draw it out. Okay, there's no top-ups though. There is no top-ups in traditional ISAs, but you'll be able to draw it out. So you can make use of additional money that you have, because you're subject to just £4,000. Okay, would I recommend this? As I said, I can't recommend anything, but what I would say to you, it sounds like an excellent idea, especially if you're buying a house. So just do your due diligence, do your research, but it sounds like something you should definitely consider if you're buying a house. Okay, so hopefully this has been useful for you. I'm going to do other videos on things, on stocks and shares and stuff like that. So please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.